The German automotive empire is dead. For 100 years, you knew the law, a rule written in steel, a promise stitched in leather. Mercedes, BMW, Porsche, power, perfection, a dynasty you believed was absolutely unbreakable. But what if that promise was just broken? What if that throne is turning to dust? Because in the one market that mattered most, the numbers are a bloodbath. A 27% drop, a 26% collapse. This isn't a market dip. This is a kill shot. The weapon wasn't loud. It didn't roar. It was silent. It was electric. And it came from the one place they never saw as a threat. Today we expose the untold story. How did Chinese EVs dismantle a century of German heritage in less than 5 years? This is the industrial revolution you were never meant to see. So buckle up, hit that like button, and make sure you're subscribed to Dravexa. You are not going to want to miss this. From that dual magic, a name was born, not from an engineer, but from a passionate client who named his race cars after his daughter, Mercedes. He demanded speed. He craved victory. And the name Mercedes soon echoed across every European racetrack. That personal touch, that fire for winning, turned a technical company into a global symbol of elegance and desire. Soon those two separate paths of Benz and Daimler would finally merge. In 1926, the two legacies became one, and with their union came an icon you see every single day, the three-pointed star. This wasn't just a logo, it was a promise, forged in steel, avowed to dominate transportation on the land, on the sea, and in the air. It became the ultimate badge of honor. And with that star leading the way, Mercedes became more than a car. It became the benchmark, the standard against which all others were measured. They weren't just selling a way to get from A to B, they were selling the best that money can buy. These cars were engineered to last for decades, building a foundation of trust so deep that presidents, kings, and titans of industry would choose nothing else. This was the pinnacle, the undisputed king. And if you wanted a glimpse of tomorrow, you just had to look inside one car, the S-Class. For generations, this wasn't just a vehicle, it was a rolling laboratory. Every safety feature you now take for granted, every piece of tech you love today, chances are the S-Class had it first. And for the absolute peak of opulence, you'd step into the Maybach, a hand-stitched throne on wheels, with a level of comfort that simply had no rival. This is why you saw it escorting presidents and kings. It was the undisputed choice of the world's elite. Mercedes was the summit, a peak no one thought could be reached. So when a history this magnificent gets hit this hard, you know it isn't just a trend. It's a revolution. But what if quiet luxury isn't your goal? What if you crave performance? What if you want to feel the road? That brings us to the second pillar of the German Empire, a company founded on the dreams of rebellious engineers, BMW. And you have to understand, its story didn't start on the pavement. It started in the sky. Born during the chaos of World War I, BMW's mission was to forge the heart of German warplanes. They built engines, legendary for their power and their flawless reliability at high altitudes. This is where you find the company's soul. An absolute obsession with precision, a relentless demand for power, a legacy of performance born in the clouds, which would one day define their cars on the ground. And that iconic logo you know so well, it's not just a design, it's a story. Forget the myths you've heard. The truth is a tribute to their sky-high origins. It's a white propeller spinning against a clear blue sky, a permanent reminder etched in their emblem for a century that the heart of an aircraft beats inside every car they build. And if you enjoy learning the true stories behind these brands, show some support and hit that like button for Dravexa. But this is where their story takes a dramatic turn. After the war, history dealt BMW a devastating blow. The Treaty of Versailles was signed, and with a single stroke of a pen, Germany was banned from building aircraft engines. It was an existential disaster. The company's very purpose was outlawed overnight. Faced with total collapse, they had to adapt or die. And their first move? They went from making engines that powered flight to making brakes that stopped trains. Yes, train brakes. But the passion for engineering couldn't be silenced. In 1923, they returned to their roots of mechanized power by building a motorcycle, the legendary R32. It was a masterpiece, and its success gave them the cash and the confidence they needed for their biggest leap yet into the world of cars. BMW had survived the sword of a treaty, but the question you have to ask now is, can it survive the silent cutting sword of Chinese technology? To find out, you need to understand the identity they built. While Mercedes focused on the passenger in the back, BMW's compass pointed to just one person: you, the one behind the wheel. The goal was simple: to craft a machine so precise, so connected to the road, it felt like an extension of your own body. This was the birth of their legendary mantra, the ultimate driving machine. This wasn't just marketing. It was a code written into the car's very bones. You could feel it in their obsession with a perfect 50-50 weight distribution, giving you a sublime sense of balance. You could hear it in their legendary inline-six engines, masterpieces of smooth-flowing power that felt like a direct inheritance from their days of mastering the sky. This philosophy was bottled and sold to the world in one game-changing car, the 3 Series. It was the perfect fusion of race car spirit and premium luxury, cementing BMW's identity as the driver's choice. But what about pure S-Class level luxury? BMW's answer was different. Their 7 Series and the godlike M cars defined luxury not by how soft the seats were, but how fast your heart pounded. They packed in the tech, the fine leather, and the comfort, but it was all wrapped around a driver-focused cockpit. For the BMW faithful, true luxury wasn't being driven, it was feeling that raw, unchained power right under your foot. They weren't the most luxurious car, but they were the best luxurious car to drive. For decades, that balance was their key to dominance. But is it enough to fight a rival who offers the same tech for half the price? So BMW carved out its identity. But in Germany, there's another level, a final boss, a company that doesn't compromise on a single goal: absolute, unquestionable engineering perfection. If Mercedes is opulence and BMW is performance, then Porsche is purity. And if you're enjoying this deep dive, make sure you're subscribed to Dravexa, because the story only gets faster from here. The legend of Porsche begins with one man, Ferdinand Porsche. And you need to understand, he wasn't just an engineer, he was a genius who wrote his own rules. This is the mind that gave the world the iconic Volkswagen Beetle, a masterclass in making simple mechanics incredibly reliable. But here's the crucial part. In 1931, Porsche didn't start a car factory. He opened an engineering and consulting office. Think about that. Porsche wasn't selling cars, it was selling its mind. Other companies paid them to solve their most impossible engineering challenges. This ingrained a culture where precision wasn't just a goal, it was the only thing that mattered. So when Porsche finally decided to build its own cars, that decision came from decades of pure, distilled expertise. This is why a drop in Porsche's sales isn't just a number on a spreadsheet. It's a direct challenge to the very soul of German engineering. That's when the founder's son, Ferry Porsche, took the wheel. He transformed the consultancy into a car maker, and after the racing success of their first model, he faced a massive challenge. How do you build a successor that carries that same engineering soul? The answer, born in 1963, was a legend. The Porsche 911, and it was a total revolution. They made a stubborn, almost crazy choice, putting the engine in the rear. It was a statement. We don't follow the rules, we write them. That design gave the 911 incredible traction and a driving feel that was simply unmatched. A simple shape, a timeless look, a design that rewrote the book. For over 60 years, that silhouette has barely changed, a symbol of quality that never compromises. The 911 dominated racetracks worldwide, and every victory sent a clear message. You weren't just buying a sports car, you were buying military-grade engineering built to survive anything. This is what made Porsche the pinnacle, and it's why a 26% sales drop in China feels like a stab to the heart of that legend. You see, Porsche's philosophy was never about selling millions of cars, it was about perfection. But in the early 90s, you couldn't pay the bills with purity alone. The 911 sales weren't enough. Porsche was bleeding cash. They faced a choice: die with honor or adapt to survive. The answer shocked the world. They built the one thing nobody ever expected a Porsche to be: an SUV. Critics called the Cayenne a betrayal, a sellout. But it was a calculated move for survival. Porsche poured the 911's DNA into its soul, making it the best driving SUV on the planet. And in markets like China, it was a smash hit. Consumers there wanted that Porsche badge on a practical, luxurious family car. The Cayenne didn't just save Porsche from bankruptcy, it made them billions, funding the very 911 purists held so dear. And that brings us to the cruel irony of this story. The very market that saved them is now the one that's sinking them. So how did a lifeline turn into a sinking ship? We're about to break down the numbers, but first, if you're enjoying this analysis, do us a favor and hit that like button for Dravexa. It helps us bring you more stories just like this one. The question is no longer about history, it's about survival. You have to ask, why is the sales drop in China an existential catastrophe? The answer is simple and brutal. First, the Chinese market is the biggest luxury car market in the world. It dwarfs the US and Europe. For Porsche, it accounts for over 30% of all global sales. Losing a third of your business in one go isn't a downturn, it's a structural collapse. Second, Chinese buyers are the financial backbone for these German giants. They don't just buy the base models, they demand the highest trims with every expensive option, making each sale incredibly profitable. Losing them means losing the high-octane fuel that funds all future research and development. For years, the Germans saw China as a loyal customer. They failed to see it was becoming their fiercest competitor. The lifeline they once held is now the rope pulling them under. So you have to be asking, how did this happen? How did China leap from making cheap economy cars to challenging the German kings at their own game? Their genius was realizing you don't play a game you're destined to lose. The gasoline engine race was over, so they decided to leapfrog the present and land directly in the future. This was the leapfrog strategy, a government-led revolution to go all in on electric vehicles. And their plan was brilliant. Step 1, make EVs irresistible to you with massive tax breaks. Step 2, make owning a gas car a nightmare. In their big cities, getting a license plate for a gas guzzler became incredibly expensive and difficult, while an EV plate was practically free. Step 3, they killed your range anxiety by building the largest, fastest charging network on the planet. But the true key, the checkmate move, was the battery. China methodically worked to seize control of the entire supply chain. Today, companies like CATL and BYD don't just supply China, they supply the world. This gives them an unbelievable cost advantage on the single most expensive part of any EV. They didn't just join the car industry, they grabbed the ignition key for the entire planet. With the tech mastered and the battery secured, they delivered the final hammer blow, the killer price. You see, the Germans sold you a financial statement, a story of heritage. China flipped the script. They started selling you pure value for your money. They offered cars with the same luxury, the same size, and often better performance for 30, 40, even 50% less. For a new generation that cares more about modern tech than old stories, the choice became obvious. And you wonder how they do it? It's that battery advantage. It's the freedom from heritage, no century of old engine costs to pay for, and it's the massive scale of production backed by the state. This puts the German giants in an impossible trap. If they cut prices to compete, their legendary profit margins evaporate. But if they keep prices high, their cars suddenly look expensive, outdated, and slow next to the new competition, destroying that very aura of luxury they built. They lose their profits, or they lose their pride. There is simply nowhere left to hide. The game has fundamentally changed. The competition is no longer about who builds the best engine. It's about who gives you the best technology at the smartest price. China has mastered that equation, and it's allowing them to snatch the crown right off of Germany's head. This isn't just a car story, it's a massive global power shift. And if you want to stay ahead of these changes, make sure you're subscribed to Dravexa with notifications on. The future is arriving faster than you think. So what you've just witnessed isn't a seasonal dip, it's a historic alarm siren blaring from Berlin to Bavaria. For a century, the German titans, Mercedes, BMW, Porsche, survived wars and treaties, but they have never faced a rival this cunning, this complete. Germany bet its empire on heritage. China bet its future on technology. And as you've seen today, the numbers don't lie. The modern buyer is choosing smart pricing over old prestige. This leaves the German giants at an impossible crossroads. Their choice? Abandon their high-profit identity and enter a price war they were never designed to win, or hold their ground and watch their most crucial market fade to black. The German Empire is on the ropes. The kings are in the corner. The battle isn't over, but you need to understand, it's now being fought on their opponent's home ground. The real question isn't just what happens to these companies, it's how the entire automotive world will be redrawn in the next 5 years. Will you see these empires break apart? Will parts of them be bought out? Or will you witness a stunning German comeback, a rebirth designed to challenge China head-on? This shift is happening now, and it affects every investment you make and every car you consider buying. But now, we want to hear from you. Drop your analysis in the comments below. Which German brand do you think will be the first to go all electric just to survive? And do you believe Chinese brands will truly dominate the global luxury market in the next 5 years? Let us know your predictions, and don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to Dravexa for more deep dives that connect the dots of our changing global economy.